So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome back to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, a wonderfully special For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, where we get to welcome in the wonderful Paddy, as always, but also the main man, Tony Daley, is here with us today, guys. I'm absolutely chuffed to bits to interview Tony. Tony has a wonderful new book coming out called The Daily Record. You will be able to see the links for it will be in the description of this podcast as well. And I'm just delighted to chat to somebody that I grew up looking at tearing it up down the wing for Aston Villa. Tony, welcome to the podcast.
Good evening, Neil. Good evening, Paddy. I've been looking forward to this. It'll be great speaking to you both.
Tony, I must say, you're the second fastest thing I've ever seen in an Aston Villa jersey. And I say the second fastest thing because I have a 10-month-old daughter who has just begun crawling and getting up and shuffling around at things. And with all due respect to you, you were fast, but my God, I know no speed when I see this blur of a Villa jersey going past me. So, yeah, it's the fastest thing I've seen anyway, the Villa jersey. But yeah, listen, look, as I say, you've got a book out, and it's going to be it's available for pre-order at the moment to be shipping in October, which we're all excited about, and it's available on morganlawrence.co.uk. You'll be able to find it there, which we will, as I say, have links up later on in this podcast and in the description. But yeah, we just wanted to really come out and get you on and chat to you about your time at Aston Villa and your time in football in general, because it was I think everybody will say with great gusto that you've been remembered fondly within the game, specifically for that flair that you used to play with down the wing. And not only that, but I think yourself and Paddy have been acquainted with each other previously at games as well, when you still do, and you still make it to Villa Park as well.
Absolutely, yes. I've sat in the Holt a few times with Paddy as well, cheering the team on, giving the team some stick as usual. It makes a change. So I know the players feels get my own back from the stickers to sometimes get in there as well that wasn't performing.
I know, Tony, you're way too nice to be given stick. Tony is an absolute gentleman, Neil. He's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. He's absolutely incredible with anybody who comes. He's very generous with his time. And I suppose the day that we stood together on the Holt end when the Scottish Cafu scored that outrageous goal. And of course, me being me, jumped on top of Tony Daley. And at the end of the game, he turned to me and he says, having a bit of a problem with my back the last few weeks. And I was like, oh my God, I'm after jumping on top of him and making it worse.
It was an amazing day, wasn't it? I mean, especially beating the Blues as well. And a fantastic goal, because we were virtually, and he came running in our direction as well. I mean, as I said, it's an amazing feeling. You get a sense, having played and appreciating the fans there, scoring in the Holt end as well, but to be part of it as well, the other side down, a massive Villa fan, never denied that, and it's a team of supporters as a kid, and to go at the other end now where you finished in football and you can watch the game as a fan, and I do, cheer, and I'm upset when the team don't play well as well, but I do put a different perspective on it as well, because having been there and the team's not performing, not for 1 minute you hear me saying that that particular player didn't try or anything like that. Yes, I'm first to say he had a really poor game, but there's reasons for it. But having put the shirt on and put the shirt off Aston Villa, I can categorically tell you that I've never played with any player who hasn't tried. Performed badly, yes, but never not tried.
Yeah, and you've translated that, and I think that's very, very apparent, because many a time have we turned on Villa TV and we've watched highlights, and yourself and Mark Regan have been there and given very, very good commentary and analysis on games as well. So it's great to hear that as well. When you're not in the Holt end, getting jumped on by loutish Irish men, even if it is one of the best days of his life. He still shouldn't be jumping. Paddy, we'll have to have a discussion about that after the podcast, for sure. And Tony, you mentioned something there, which is which is fantastic. And I think it's something that I've got a couple of follow-on questions to after this. But obviously, you're a Villa lad. You know, you started off your career with Villa, and you're a local Birmingham lad. Being honest with yourself, I suppose, or with us, should I say, really, did you always think you were going to be a professional footballer? And I know that's a very kind of cliche question that everybody asks a professional footballer, but I think everybody would be different when you ask that question to them. But what was your own view, I suppose, of football growing up? Was it more a hobby that became a profession, or was it something that that you worked on?
Yeah, absolutely. From the age of 9, I can categorically tell you that I wanted to be a professional footballer. And I wanted to play for Villa from that age. And ask anybody, all the way through, what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a pro footballer. Excellent. And it wasn't arrogance or anything like that. It was just something I determined to do, and something that it was my full aim, and something I believed that would happen. Not one time did I doubt that was going to happen. As I said, it wasn't arrogance. It was just a belief I was going to do that, and it was hard work. It's hard work simply, from a youngster, kicking a ball permanently against the wall, playing football 24/7, having, practicing my left foot, remember, from the age of 10 years of age, trying to be two-footed. The only thing I didn't practice was heading the ball. That's never going to happen, that. But in general, just that belief, even a child, and I think it's important that you do that. There's no limits. You set your limits high, and that was for me as well, and obviously as well. Growing up as well, obviously want to play for Villa, but the likes of Kevin Keegan, Mark Chamberlain, players like that playing for England, Steve Coppell wants to play for my country. So those two were my biggest things. I can remember at the age of 9, 10 years of age that I wanted to do.
I told you at the start, Neil, that he was very modest. He did score a couple of headers for Aston Villa in his time.
Yes, I did, to be quite honest with you. I talk about headers, Paddy. I believe it or not, for my height, I did have a spring on me as well, but it was a case of lack of direction. Always remember, seriously, did practice my head in, and that got particularly better as well, to be quite honest with you. But obviously, it was never really my forte, to be quite honest with you. So, scoring those couple of goals for you, as I said, was an absolute delight. Shock more than anything, to be quite honest with you.
Some people might say that your hair got in your eyes, and that's why you couldn't hit the ball.
Oh yeah, but if I did the hairdo the day before, that might have something to do with it. No, that's not.
You grew up quite close to Villa Park, didn't you, Tony?
Yes, I literally lived about 3 miles from Villa Park. 10-minute walk. Again, as I said, I always remember going down with my brother to some of the games as well. I remember one game we went to, which I was in the whole time. I didn't get to see. It was against Ipswich. We got beat 2-0 that night. Unbelievable. The place was absolutely rammed. I remember having to be on my brother's shoulders to watch the game. And also many a time we used to go down on Saturday and sneak in to watch the game.
That was my next question.
A fair few times. And in those days as well, at half time as well, they used to open the gates as well. So I used to come down and watch the second half as well. Fascinated. I mean, when I did go down and watch the games, see the whole of the game, it was the sheer brilliance of it. I mean, even it got to a stage where I got a little bit older when I was, 13, 14, 15, and was talking about this young lad, Tony Daley. And for me, about wanting to play, I mean, the players to follow was Mark Walters, who used to play for our rival school, Holt. Even though he was 4 years older than me, I used to go and watch at an early age, Mark Walters, because he was an absolute legend in Birmingham. He was tearing it up. It was very similar to myself, coming through the ranks, playing early doors. One of the most skillful players that I had the pleasure of playing with, and I used to watch him playing in the youth team and going, I want a bit of that, and seeing the crowd when he got the ball and the buzz, and me looking, staring, and going, wow, this is amazing. Transfer that, 4 or 5 years down the line, I'm making my debut at 17, and just a scrawny little kid running down the wing, 100 miles an hour, and the idea of the fans, feeling the fans as they suddenly, when you got the ball, and I could tell you now, feeling the buzz as the seats went up. I can honestly say, you hear it? Yes, I did. The feeling, the quietness, and the gasp of you getting the ball. The most inspiring thing, and I can't describe how that felt. It's amazing.
That's an amazing. That, you know what, you were very kind of. It was very picturesque the way that you mentioned it there, and it's those little things that I suppose that you would have heard. I suppose that fans might take for granted. The seats going up there. That's a real emotive kind of thing there, as you knew. Oh, I'm doing something right here. They get off their. They're on their feet. To see, you can kind of sense that's fantastic. And just, I suppose, if we were to just reverse back a tiny little bit there, because I'm just intrigued. Obviously nowadays, the scouting networks and stuff like that are, God, if you're not in an academy at 4 years of age nearly, or if you aren't taken straight out of the womb and in an academy, your chances of success are lessened and lessened. What was kind of the pathway to being spotted or noticed or in the area at that time? Like, obviously somebody like you, it was probably no secret that you were going to be signed up by Aston Villa, but what was the process to be spotted?
The process is very simple. You play for your school team first, then you play for the district, and in that district there'll be scouts flying around, locally. There'll be West Brom Blues, the Baggies. Sometimes you get some far fields, Blackpool or whatever. And then when you play for your county, which was next to the next international team as such as well, that's when there's a lot of scouts about. So if you play for your county, which I played for the West Midlands. And I think at the time I was playing a year ahead of myself for that county as well. That's when there was like a rush of teams coming in for you. But it was really not until really that I was involved in the so-called then academy system at about probably 14, 15. And then, signed YTS at 16 years of age. So it wasn't really a stage where you put spotted at 8 or 9 like that at all then. Nothing like that at all.
You did venture to the other side of the city for a while, didn't you?
Yes. I was spotted by Malcolm Beard. Eventually came over to Aston Villa, and I had a couple of trial sessions there for Blues. But I can categorically say to you, I was never, ever going to play for them. I was over there as well. They initially showed an interest as well. And my ventures also took me to far fields of Blackpool as well. I remember there I spent a couple of days down there as well. And for me, it was great because it experienced that time travelling, being away from home, from parents, because, being a lad, it was literally, you're at school, playing football or in your house, but to go and play, in a, what do you call it, a school break, Easter break, going and train down the likes of Blackpool was great. A good experience for me. But again, for me, it was really Aston Villa for me after those two experiences as well. Playing for Villa, we used to train down. I always remember our training session was in a car park at Aston Villa down in a little dungeon. We used to train on concrete down there. I always remember that as well. There's none of these fancy academy pitches that you get now, pristine, beautiful pitches that you play on now. We used to train down in there as well.
You mentioned YTS scheme there, and there's a whole generation that won't know anything about that scheme. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a lot of footballers out there at the moment that would have benefited from going through that system? Because I would have a good knowledge of it myself through friends and stuff going through it, but it was a real grounding process for someone who thought they were going to be the next Tony Daley or the next Jack Grealish, So it is a world of difference between the 80s and 90s doing that YTS scheme and cleaning boots and sweeping the terraces and all that kind of thing. Were those the kind of things you did in the YTS scheme?
Absolutely. But you know what, Paddy? It's different generation has completely changed, and going for the system. But I would say to you, for me, it was a massive grounding in terms of that now. Having playing football, one of the professional footballer. But when you, as you said, when you're sweeping the terraces, cleaning the pros' boots, having to go into a dressing room, scared to death of going to a dressing room, for the youth team manager at times, Brian Little, and I'll go and get Captain Alan Evans, the manager who wants to see him, and you'd be petrified to go in there, absolutely petrified.
I'm petrified to go up to Alan Evans now.
You'd take minutes trying to, book up the courage to go in there, but that grounding as well. But from my own experiences as well now, when that's completely changed now, and you harden very quickly. used to be, honestly, if you didn't perform on the football field, whether you're the first team or youth team, you got absolutely abused by your players. If you didn't track a man or something, you can't do that days now, because they were literally fighting each other or get, or too precious. I'm not speaking out of turn, because it's not a done thing now. But me personally, in that era, it was a wonderful thing for me. But what you do get now with the way the academy system go, are technically gifted players, and they are great on the ball. They know the systems, play the same system, the first team from the age of 10, 11. You know that they know how to play football. They're technically good, whether you're a centre half or a ball playing midfielder. You're very good on the ball. You know your systems. You know about fitness. You start to learn about nutrition, looking after yourself. But sometimes as well, can that be transferred into first team environment? There's plenty of people, who stick out unbelievable players onto under 23, and you put them into, okay, you mentioned Blackpool, or go off to Plymouth and go and play down there or Grimsby, at a 3-month loan down there. That will show the true player. Can you cope with that men's football? Can you cope with a manager who's literally spitting at him, in his face, effing and jeffing at him, because he hasn't performed, kind of thing. The fans giving you stick because you made one bad pass and stuff like that. Can you cope with that? That if you can do that, you can be the best player in the world. And if one little thing like that upsets you, or you go in your shell because you can't cope with any of the things I've just mentioned, you're going to struggle to be a professional footballer. What the grounding, the grounding we had was that if you were an okay player, you'd be able to cope with that, so you could probably still make a living out the game. Doesn't mean that better players, you get better technical players here now, but the best ones that you see, playing now, your Ronaldos, your Messis, and everything else, they've been through all that. They've got the grounding. They can take all that, take the stick, take the abuse, and everything else. They're the special ones. They're the elite ones that carry on and playing good football.
And that's interesting, actually, because it just popped into my mind that when you were, and I'm really jumping ahead in my rundown sheet here now, but the listeners will understand. But obviously, you were were Wolverhampton, and you were a fitness coach. You were SNC. You were part of the SNC department at Wolverhampton. I'm just thinking there as well that there's a guy from my hometown. He's related to me. His name is Anthony Ford, and he broke onto the team. You probably would have coached him, and he broke onto the Wolves team under Mick McCarthy at 17 years of age. And I think he was one of these guys that was able to do. He was good technically with the ball. He was good level of fitness, and he was just really, really, really drilled in what he could do as well. And he's made that career for himself. He's still playing at the moment with. He's actually playing with Wrexham at the moment with the Hollywood guys down at Wrexham. Yeah.
Yes, I remember Fordy really, really well. As I said, he broke into a very, very strong Wolves team, so he'd done as well. A lot of talent, and he had a pedigree as well, because he stayed in and around that first team as well. Because as I said, a lot of players at that age as well, kind of drift away. Yeah, and had the pleasure of him, and he had a very good attitude, if that makes sense. Always wanted to learn. In terms of myself, working with him as well, did everything he did, wanted to bet himself, always wanted to go in the gym, asking questions. So he had a very, very good upbringing. Really good lad. I liked him.
Excellent. We're going to swing back to Aston Villa, because I probably have more questions about that part of your after footballing career. But obviously, this podcast is named after. I don't know. Do you know him? His name's Paul McGrath. He's
heard about him somewhere. I think he means his name.
Some people know him, some people don't. I don't know. He's yeah. But so obviously you would have played in teams with Paul McGrath, and we call him God here in Ireland. People in Birmingham call him God in Ireland, and what kind of a presence was he within that dressing room? And was he somebody that was that when you guys were playing with him, you were kind of like, oh, it's okay, Paul has it. Paul's going to sort this out here.
You'd said. Man, people, what you called him God, we called him God as well. Paul McGrath was an absolutely amazing player, an amazing person as well. And as you said, what I liked about Paul McGrath was that he was never flustered. When he got the ball, never once I think, oh, mistake here, or something's going to happen, because 99 times out of 100 it was great. Whether you get the ball and the ball's in the air, chest it down, bit of play in his own box and play it out, or something like that, or whether he knew how to sense danger, where they had to go into Rosette, he would do it. He, for me, always made the right decision. but he was honestly, he was a wonderful player to play with, and he was, he really wasn't a true gentleman. So much time from Maka.
And you played with him in the '94 League Cup final. And I have to ask you this question. To this day, do you wish the ball went in off the post, or were you okay with it coming back and Daniel and Andrzej Kanchelski's handling it after Daniel Atkinson's shot?
Let me tell you something. We won the game, and in fact, it was called half assist or assist, not really assist, but being involved with that. And it's a fantastic save he actually pulled off from me. And we're talking about this now, but wouldn't it be wonderful to say you scored the third goal in the cup final against Man United? Obviously, yes. But to be involved in that, play a major part of it was a fantastic experience. As I said, you look at many pro players who go throughout their career, and winning a medal, winning that League Cup against all the odds, for me, will go down a fantastic memory. It was unbelievable.
And I know this is hard to say, but obviously winning kind of a lot of people would gravitate towards that. But would it have been your top memory at Aston Villa, or what would have been your top memory at Aston Villa, I suppose?
I mean, that would, as I said, that particular season where a team that didn't really perform in the league as well. We were rank average in the league, but so something magic about the cup. Always remember going, we had to do it the hard way, beating some top teams away from home, and the likes of Tottenham as well. I beat Man United final, but when we played against Sunderland, I always remember, honestly, Neil, we were absolutely battered. If it wasn't for Mark Bosnich that time, we could have been 3-4-0 down. He was, I can't describe, one of the best goalkeeper performances I've ever seen. And, Daley was on fire that night as well, that particular night. So every time we broke, we scored. It was simple as that. They'd have 2 or 3 more chances. And there weren't bad misses. Bos was plucking out the top corner. He'd block one of his legs from point blank range. It was outstanding that night. Yeah, up to the possibly one of the best games I played in against Tranmere, having losing the first leg 3-1 with that as well. Winning that, on penalties, again, was an amazing experience. So, for me, as I said before, the League Cup was a truly that run, and obviously the League Cup final was probably one my true highlights for Aston Villa for sure.
You scored the winning penalty that night, didn't you? Bozzy stole your thunder, but you scored the winning penalty.
It's great, really, as it is there. Well, I always remember seeing that penalty as well, and looking back at it, I was actually, people say, "Oh, you look quite sure you're cocky, or not cocky, but you're quite sure that you're going to put the ball in the net. You look unflustered." But I remember walking up and just seeing the side that goal became a 5-a-side goal. And, so that was one of the most nerve-wracking moments of my career, trying to take that penalty. And looking back, when you look back and actually see the highlights from it, and then you see, good job I didn't look over, and I can see Big Ron talking to Jim Walker, Big Ron shaking his head, going like that. And then it's going to miss kind of thing. And then you see the fans as well, the fans going like this, like head and hand before we even took, to the penalty. Good job, I was focused and I didn't look at any direction, because that would have surely put me off.
Well, us Irish, our most famous penalty shootout was at the World Cup in 1990, and we all did that when David O'Leary went up to take the penalty. So we can understand where they're coming from. But it was a fine penalty, absolutely fine penalty. There's someone else in that team that I'd like to pick your brains about, because I don't know whether you know this, but when I was a kid, I was a Liverpool fan. But my hero was Steve Staunton. So when Steve Staunton signed for Aston Villa, so did I. So they say you don't choose, you're chosen. I was chosen the wrong way around, whatever happened. But Steve Staunton was my hero from when I started watching football at 9 or 10, when he was breaking into that Liverpool team and playing for Ireland. And the two of us are left-footed, so I like, my very first game was against Manchester City. I think I told you this story. My dad's a Man City fan, and he wrote to Steve Staunton and got us players' lounge tickets. But that day we played Man City. It was early December in 1991. The pitch, the box in front of the whole end was frozen, and we were 2-1 up, and the ball was launched forward by Les Sealy, flicked on by Cyril Regis. And this guy comes out of nowhere on a sweet wand of a left foot and blasts one into the top corner. And it was at that moment I had a new hero, and that hero was Tony Daley.
do remember that game extremely well, as I said there as well. You know, the ball never touched the floor, as I said, from Sealy's really kick, Seals flick on. And I just remember the only reason I took that first time again was the conditions. They were treacherous in terms of that now. So if I tried to bring it down, it was like an ice skate rink in that area, all the way down the pitch. Literally, if you watch that game, most of the players played them, you know, on the outer skirts, because nowadays that game would have been called off, if that makes sense.
It would have been, yeah, absolutely. But being my first time at Villa Park, I can tell you I was very glad that it wasn't called off. Yeah. But after that game, we were in the players' lounge, and my dad said, "Look at the short that this guy is wearing." Guess who it was, Neil?
Oh. I just nothing has changed. Yes, I mean, I've got a piece of my book about my gear in there as well. Yes, and look, mine wasn't for the shock factor. It was just my personality. I loved clothes. That was my thing. You know, loved the haircut, as you know as well. But that was just my personality. And I used to get hammered by the players, hammered by you know, what's come to train or the game today, or what haircut he's got. But look, you know, that was just me, and I used to giggle about it and laugh. It never ever bothered me. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't me trying to be a shock factor as well. It wasn't the case, oh, what can I do with them now? That was me, where it was. We talk about Steve Staunton. Well, he was the one who used to give me absolute dog's abuse. Stan's a really good friend of mine as well, and has actually contributed to the book as well. You know, he's
very good.
Some very good words in there, and caned me as well, to be quite honest. On top of that as well, with about my gear, but like. Playing with Steve Staunton was, as you know, the same effects coming back from Liverpool as well. He actually upped my game, to be quite honest with you. You know, I was never a player who played in the comfort zone. He would, if I didn't track a man, or you know, two things. If I didn't take the player on a should off, Stan used to tear into me. You know, oh, yeah, go and take him on, everything else. Or I didn't track my man, he would absolutely, abuse me. But conversely, you know, if I took the man and did something well, you know, he's the first one to cheer you on and encourage you. That's what I loved about him, and everything else. You're always on your toes when you played there, always in your ear talking to you as well. So, you know, as I said, it was a pleasure playing with him, and it's good as well that we're still in contact and everything else. And he's a really good friend of mine as well. He's, as you said, a wonderful guy, Stan, wonderful guy.
I have no idea how you understood the Drogheda accent, because like it's completely, it should be a dialect of its own. It should be protected under the UNESCO or whoever protects those things, because my God, it's impossible.
I would say to you, Neil, that abuse is an international language. You know you're getting abuse.
That's true.
As Tony said there, Tony obviously does have a book coming out soon, and it is for pre-order on with morganlawrence.co.uk. You will be able to find the link, will be in the description below. It's going to be a fantastic read. As it says there, it's about a man who has 340 appearances, 5 clubs, 7 international caps, but he only has 1 book, and you can buy that. You can get it on pre-order, and it will be shipped in October, this coming October, and can't wait for it. Really looking forward to getting our hands on it as well.
And also, Neil, for those who are watching this now, if you give the video a thumbs up, yes, and answer this question below: what team did Tony join when he left Aston Villa? And we'll have another book to give away for somebody in the comments who gets that question correct. We didn't want to make it too hard, Tony.
No,
and information signed book as well. So
it's a signed book, yes.
It's a signed book. Exactly. And now to give away the answer to the question, but what was it like, Tony? I suppose, you know, 233 league appearances, 31 goals for Aston Villa, and you know, the time came when, you know, you left, and I suppose 9 years at the club and following them and being part of the YTS scheme, you know, maybe it might have been in your back of your head that there might be a time when I have to leave, but you had to. What's kind of the thought process, and what kind of difficulties, I suppose, does that bring up for you? Did that bring up for you being a fan of the club?
Yeah, quite a bit, Neil. And it was practically 10 years I was there, you know, short of a couple of months, to be quite honest with you. But the hard bit was being a massive Villa fan, being a club that I played for over here, but it was for my career. I need the fresh challenge. Big one had come in. I picked up a few injuries where I was before one crucial injury. Big one had come in, and I wasn't a regular first team player at that time as well. You know, I was in and out, coming back from injury as well. And for me, the hard bit was to, yes, you know, staying at the club, playing a big part, being part of the squad at the time, because I didn't know which way my knee was going at that particular time, and that's the first thing you're thinking about. I felt it's best I need a fresh challenge. But, the big factor for me was Graham Taylor. I had no intention of leaving the club at that particular time, but, for me, it was a fresh challenge. Graham Taylor came along, and having played with him, always got the best out of me. And, he was somebody you would actually die for, to play for, in terms of the way he was with me. I get opportunity to go and talk to him. I remember going to his house in sort of Coalfield, which was literally just down the road from me, a 10-minute drive from me, and meeting there with my agent. And I was there. I'll tell you not, it must have been 3.5-4 hours talking football. Talking about what he's going to do to the club, where the club's going to be. And to put on it sold me. I would like to go in there out of courtesy and see, because I did want to stay at Villa, because that big wrench of leaving, the hometown, as far as I wanted to do, I want to stay there, for full my career. But I realised that I still had ambition. I still wanted to, play Premier League football. As far as I was concerned, I was going to be there for one season, playing Premier League football, and playing the best football out the manager who got the best out of me.
And then you followed him to Watford as well afterwards, because the reason I bring that up is it just goes to show the measure of the great man the Graham Taylor was. Obviously, when you have that simpatico with a manager, you know that there's a manager that's got your back. The fact that he signed you three times, really, you played under him 3 times, signed you twice, that's a lovely kind of a mark to have of what a gentleman he was. And sadly, he's no longer with us, obviously, and I think is consistently and will forever be mourned by the footballing fraternity for that very reason. You mentioned about your injuries. You mentioned your knee. And injuries became a part. Look, as I always say, Father Time is undefeated, unfortunately, and sometimes injuries catch up with people. And what I'm getting at with this question that I want to ask here is, obviously you went into strength and conditioning, you went into the physical aspect of the game afterwards. I can't imagine in 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002 that there were very many Tony Daleys in around the clubs. But my question is, am I wrong in that? And what was the attitude towards knee injuries back there? Was it a case of, if you can play through the pain, we'll let you? Or was there obviously there wasn't as much as knowledge around them as there are now. But was that something that made you kind of think, I'd like to get involved in this, in fitness and strength and conditioning, because I think there's a lot more to be offered to the game from that point of view?
For me, I mean, even I remember Jim Walker at Aston Villa, and the first time I did my cruciate at Aston Villa a couple of seasons before I left. I was fascinated. I was one of these freaks who actually loved pre-season in terms of fitness. That was the thing for me. I loved running, loved training. It was my thing. You know what I mean? The fitter for me, the better. Loved being in the gym, doing strength work, all those. And I remember being injured and speaking to Jim. He used to hate me because I'd ask him, "Oh, what's the injury? You've done your hamstring. But what muscle have I done? How have I done that? It's a bicep femoris." But I thought it was your semitendinosus or semitendinosus or something like that. And I go, and he'd be going, "Just leave me alone, please. Just want to do your job." I was just fascinated about the injuries and how it was repaired and everything else. So originally, I was thinking about going down the physio route. But for me, the more I looked into fitness, my thing was, okay, I'm injured here. What can I do to get myself back fitter, stronger, and better than I was before? And even then, I was reading stuff and coming to Jim and asking about this. I've read this and stuff like this, and what's your thoughts on this? And it was really, really helpful me in terms of that. And then I would think whilst I was playing at 24, 25, when I finished football, I was going to go down the sports science route for sure. And as you said with that before, and for me it was quite unique going to university. First getting my and finally getting my postgraduate degree, and going down that route as well, because I was one of the unique few of ex-professional footballers who gone down that route, become fitness coach, getting the qualifications that I did. And what I did find, there was the two school of thoughts. Having moved to Sheffield United, where it's quite unique and getting what you got with the buying with players. First and foremost, you've got an instant respect because of what you've done as a footballer. You know, because at the time, fitness coaches at that time were the ones where I'm not winning, I'm not doing that, and everything else. But you know, they're the ones that got dogs abuse from the players, really, in terms of that now. But because of what I had achieved in the game at that time, held me in good stead. That was a good start for me. Only a good start, because if you're not good at your job, that will only last a week, and then you're going to get it, kind of thing as well. But it gave me opportunities, you know, for the players to get to know me and realise that, you know, that yes, I can do my job and I'm there. But what it does as well is that I realised I probably stood out from other sports scientists who was equally as qualified as myself, was that an empathy with the footballers. You can look at data and a particular player, he can run this speed, or he's got this amount of endurance, and you'll see him on a football field or training field, and he's not, they'd say, not trying a leg. Why he's not doing that? Why he's not doing that? Well, I play the game as well. You know, I know there's other things that might be going on, and one of the things to do is approach a player and look, you know, I've been through this, you know, speak to me. What's your issue? I'll have that empathy with them. That's my first thing. My first thought is not trying a leg, is there's other issues there, and that kind of helped as well. And the players were very approachable with me because they understood that I'd played the game and understood them. So that was a big factor. But having moved to Wolves as head of sports science, I mean, the initial thing, not in that staff, I mean, the stick I got from the fans, I always remember, was the fact that having only played 20 appearances for over the 4 years, you know, and being the laughing stock about the amount of goals, how could someone be so injured, be our head of sports science? I actually thrived on that, to be quite honest with you, you know, because any form of adversity like that, it wasn't a case of proving me wrong. I was all right, yeah, that's no problem with that. I'll show you, kind of thing, you know. So that came from the fans, really, as well. So again, it's a case of trying to win those over, and eventually you do. Some you never will, of course, you aren't as well. So for me, you know, being an ex-footballer in the job as well did have its advantages.
Yeah. Tony, you mentioned there, obviously, you know, being an ex-footballer and going into the role itself, and you mentioned that not a lot of ex-footballers are going into that role. Obviously, you know, I suppose you were a black man in football, in the backroom team in football at that time, and even in, like, when you're talking about the early 2000s, and even to this day now, we're beginning to see it happen more and more, and I suppose it's becoming more and more prevalent, but there is always that question about, you know, why is it disproportionate? Why is it disproportionate in that aspect? And without putting you on the spot, do you feel that there was ever that kind of disproportionality, or did you ever notice any of that disproportionality when you were in the dugouts or when you were in the sports science field within your career after football?
Yeah, I could exactly say. I mean, I was at Sheffield United as well, and that was really a tiny staff where sports science at the time wasn't that great. And having worked with Neil Warner, who was a fantastic manager to work for, you know, it was a good grounding for me for sure in terms of going on the career I had as a professional fitness coach. You know, can I just say categorically no? I mean, at the time when I did move to Wolves 4 years later, being there for 10 years, you know, with the likes of Terry Connor there, who's manager with Nick McCarthy, and you know, the staff there as well. We had staff all the way through the academy, both black, Asian, you know, Italian. You know, there was no issues in terms of that, and you know, and I never experienced that. To be quite honestly at all. There was no issues whatsoever. To no extreme, you know, even with the other staff as well. You can't have that human bond, even as a player. When you're a player as well, it's like anything else. You look at a player. Is he a good player? Yes. No. You know, is he a bad leg? Is he a bad egg? Yes. No. Colour doesn't come to it. So you can be whether you're black or white. It doesn't. That's not the issue. The other issues is whether, for those reasons, has a good personality. Is he a nice guy? You know, is he good at his job? And that's universal. And that's the only experience I can honestly say that I've had, you know, post football, to be quite honest with you. It's been an absolute pleasure, you know, the 14, 15 years I had as a fitness coach.
Mm-hmm. And you've obviously started the 7daily.co.uk as well, which is thriving. I'd love to be able to fit into the t-shirt that you're wearing, Tony, but I don't know. For a fitness coach, I would imagine that you don't do double XL t-shirts.
They come in all sizes. Now, I mean, look, as I said to you, I mean, from a young age, fitness has been key to me. I mean, the biggest thing that happened to me was obviously when I went to Wolves and not being able to play, 4 years, you're injured practically 3 of the 4 years that you were there. Yeah. And I needed a substitute. The substitute for me was fitness. I couldn't be on the football field. It was keep myself fit, keep myself healthy, and being in the gym. So that was my release as such and everything else. I couldn't play football at the time, and that's something that's continued. For me, keep myself fit is just a natural thing to do. It's not a heartache. It's not anything. If I don't do it, it's the other way around. I'll get angry and everything else. I've got to go. Got to go in the gym and got to do that. So for me, it's not a hardship. It's something that I really, really enjoy, and as long as I'm capable of doing it, I'll continue to do it.
We didn't touch on your international career at all, Tony. Paddy has followed you around in your international career, as I found out beforehand. So it would be remiss of me to ask you anything to do with your international career. So, Paddy, take it away.
Well, I don't know whether you'd call it your first England cap, but I was there when you played. I think there were classed as a B team, wasn't it? And you played against the Republic of Ireland in Cork.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. I won't bring up the fact that you gave the ball away for the third goal either.
I don't recall that. I can't remember that at all.
Yeah, but like you played in that team in Cork. I can't even remember what year it was. Would have been 1990, maybe, would it?
I think it would have been. Yes, it was.
Yeah. And it was a team of incredible footballers: Tony Adams, Matt Letizia, David Batty. Nigel Clough, Dalian Atkinson. Dalian Atkinson was the best player on the pitch that day. Absolutely incredible. Yeah. There was a load of Ireland players that went on to play in the World Cup the following year or later that year. Yeah. So 10,000 people crammed into Cork City Stadium in Turner's Cross to watch that game, and we were treated to a brilliant game. Like, it was 4-1, but it was never a 4-1 game. It was very, very tight. But and then you were obviously on the bench when Ireland played England. Then the following year at Lansdowne Road was the 1-1 from that famous ball in by Steve Staunton to Tony Cascarino, and of course David Platt scored at the other end. So it was all Villa orientated that day. But tell us a little bit about going to Sweden and how was that experience for you?
It was amazing because I actually gate crashed the Euro squad as it was at the time. So if we just go back just a little bit before that, Paddy as well, I was involved, again, nearly gate crashed in 1990 on World Cup under Bobby Robson at the time. The 89-90 season under Graham Taylor was probably my best season ever. I was playing some unbelievable football at that time, and I was involved in 2 squads, which was on the bench for. We never got under Bobby Robson, but was very close to the squad there. But going back to Euros again, I think one thing that highlighted for me as well when we played against Inter Milan and beat them 2-0 at home. That game as well, again, a great night as well. Again, one of the most memorable games that I've played in as well. I did half decent in that game as well. And certain Graham Taylor was in the studio in ITV commentating on that game as well, when they did do that type of thing as well. And, as announced in the squad, a few months later, just regarding that as well. And, my England career took off. I played a few games, did extremely well in there as well, in those games as well. And literally on the top of those 2-3 games that I played, I got myself into the England squad. And going to the Euros was good, but, during that time as well, there was the difficulty with the fact that the media had this agenda against Graham Taylor at the time. So, I do go in more detail book regarding that, but at that time, that kind of spoiled that, the events of being involved. Don't get me wrong, playing for your country, and actually say you played in the 1992 Euros. superb. I'll never forget that. But it was kind of tarnished really with the way the press had acted on the Graham Taylor at that particular time.
They tended to do that back in that time, and thankfully times have changed a little bit, and it was refreshing to see how much they got behind the team in the Euros last year, because the minute something goes wrong, they have a tendency to turn the knife a little bit on the manager or find a scapegoat, but I think last year it shows how far we've come in that the media were completely against the abuse of Bukayo Saka and everybody else on that day. So I think the world has come a long way since 1992, I think is in short what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely, it is. And I think, and quite rightly so as well, things have moved on significantly since that as well. And I think it was heart and minds, I think, when Gareth Southgate came in and, there was an open quest. The players were quite free to speak to the press, and they were quite open in the conversation they were having them as well. And that was refreshing as well. And brilliantly as well, the press responded to that. I think, hang on a minute, if we don't stitch these players up, they're going to give us exclusives. They're going to talk to us naturally, not the usual. So I remember speaking in Euro 92 and literally having a script, saying neither no comments or, this is what, where the actor don't say that because they're going to twist it anyhow. The press officer gave me this list of things not to do, not to say, because it's going to get twisted. But just regarding that as well now, I think the press kind of love that as well, that openness of the players and the approach they can have with the players as well. So I think that helps. So, they've, without doing that now, there's no need for them to, try and find dirt in the players, because it's a feel-good factor. England playing well at the time, the nation were behind them. The nation don't want to hear about, really the nitty-gritty of what, players might have got drunk in a nightclub one time and a single lad walked out with, 2 girls on his arms. Big deal. But, in 1992, that would have been massive, massive news. They want to hear about the player, about his family, about his upbringing and, the charity work, all the goodness he's doing, or, he struggles with, nerves, or he's got mental health issues. The real world, what we, Joe Public deal with now, you know what I mean? They are realistic, Fans want to see that as well. And then to go out and see them perform and playing extremely well, it kind of brought everything together. That's what, that's how I saw it as well. I think it's fantastic.
Excellent. And that really does kind of bring it home when, sometimes the emotion comes over a fan, and this almost brings it back full circle, Tony, to what you said at the very, very start. When you're commentating or when there's a fan in the stadium, sometimes the emotion can get the better of them. But it's really interesting to hear that from your point of view, that when a microphone and a camera is stuck in your face, what you say anybody can make whatever they want out of what you say, and I suppose there is kind of a human element that you're only saying how you feel, or you want to say how you feel, but sometimes you feel that it's restrictive because of the over scrutiny of what's said. That's a really interesting part. It's not something that I would have. It is something I would have thought of, but it's something that I hope I can bite my tongue more sometimes when I'm talking about footballers, whether they're for Aston Villa or not, and I can say, wait a minute, there's a very much a human aspect to this, and the fact that this guy wants to say something and he can't say it, and he shouldn't just say it because Neil over here in Ireland wants him to say X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that freedom as well. Sometimes I think it's strange as well that when after a game, the microphone is just stuck in front of a manager, for instance, and the emotion of running high, trust me, it is as well, the frustration of it. And, the manager might say something about the referee, and realistically, he doesn't mean that, or he's just frustrated about a decision, and it's come out wrong. If he would probably say the same thing 24 hours later, 40 hours, still give the referee stick, but say it in the right way where he's not going to get fined, or, with that as well. But the emotions run high at that particular time. And and I think as well, sometimes when they do get punished, and players as well doing that as well, it's just emotionally after the game. It's very, very difficult for them. It really is.
Yeah, Tony. Just before we finish up, I'm going to ask you a three question salvo, and I just want one word answers. I think I know the answers to one of them. So obviously we're going to keep this Aston Villa related because this is an Aston Villa podcast. Favorite manager at Aston Villa?
Graham Taylor.
I could have nearly guessed that one myself. Best Villa player you ever played with?
Paul McGrath.
Paul McGrath. Excellent. You're getting all the right answers so far anyway. And lastly, what was your favourite goal you ever scored for Aston Villa?
Versus Luton. I'll describe it. Running down the left wing, all the way around, beating a couple of players and slotting it in, just thinking it over the keeper. That would be my favourite goal. But I have a few, but that's my favourite one.
Well, you know what, Neil? I know from listening to Tony in the past, he mentioned Maradona as one of his favourite players. That goal was the reverse side of the pitch to Maradona, but equally as good.
Come on, I appreciate that, Paddy. But he said Maradona at the time. You know what a player he was, especially in that World Cup. The goals he scored in that particular World Cup.
Incredible, absolutely incredible.
Excellent, because I was expecting it to be the Daily Dazzler against Everton, the one that made the front of
that's definitely up there as well. It's one of my definite favourites as well. But that for me, you know, and I think one scored against what was it, West Brom in the league FA Cup game as well. You know, my trouble was I had scored quite a few decent goals. Not enough tap-ins. That was
there wasn't many tap-ins.
you know, instead of 30 goals, it could have been 16. Turned there if I wasn't picking my nose on the far post, and you know, and getting a few tap-ins, getting into the box as well. But you know, that's the way it is.
Exactly. Well, we've learned a lot about you today, Tony, and I do thank you for your time. We've learned that you pick your nose at the back post. You just said it there, and they're not my words. We've also learned that me and you have something in common, that we've both graced the field in Turner's Cross in Cork City. So what could have been when I was an 18-year-old? Was I even 18? Yeah, I was. I think I was 18. Played in Turner's Cross in a 3-0 loss, I might add, but not in an international game.
Good company is there as well. So
exactly. Yeah. So we've learned an absolute ton about you today, Tony. And for everybody who's listening as well, this Tony does have a book out it's coming out at the moment. It's available for pre-order. It's available on Morgan Lawrence Publishing Services. You get it on morganlawrence.co.uk. And as I say, that is available now. You can go and you can sign up for it for pre-order. There's signed copies there, and also it will ship in October. And with that, we also have a giveaway, guys. All you need to do is give a thumbs up on this video, and you need to comment below and answer the question, the terribly difficult question of who did Tony Daley leave Aston Villa to join in 1990? What year was it? 1994. So who did he leave Aston Villa to join? What club did he leave Aston Villa to join? And if you can't answer that after listening to this podcast, you weren't listening hard enough. So go back and listen to it again, or buy the book. No, actually, go in and buy the book because you weren't listening. That's what you need to do. So pop that in the comments, and we will give out a copy, and that will be given out before the game on Friday. So Thursday evening, we will be announcing the winner for that one for sure. Tony, I really appreciate your time today. We've 52 minutes of absolute, riveting stuff, and I could have talked to you for another 52 minutes. But as I say, I can't wait to get my hands on the book. So thank you very much for your time, Paddy.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Tony. I look forward to bumping into you the next time I'm over, and thanks for everything. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Paddy. Thank you, Neil, as well. It's been a pleasure speaking to you both.
And it's your turn to jump up on his back next time as well. Whenever. So I'll hold him to that as well. So that's been fantastic. Once again, the book is available on morganlawrence.co.uk. The link will be in the description here. As I say, there's tons and tons of content in there, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Even if it is for some ribbon that Stan Staunton gives him in the book as well, because he did mention that. I'm now my ears pricked up when I mentioned that, because as I say, I can't imagine that is Steve Staunton giving out to too many people with that Drogheda accent. So I'm going to read it in a Drogheda accent when I do read it, when it is in your book. But I appreciate your time. Please go buy that book, and thanks everybody for watching today. We will be back again with more podcasts in the future, so join us here on For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, and until then, all that's left to say is up the Villa.
See you guys, up the Villa.
Up the